I'm back for another wonderful season of your favorite reality entertainment variety show. Tonight, our show is dedicated to mental health. Our entire show is to help you and your family to sit around, talk to each other, have gathered a lot of great information to share this about mental health, the importance of us all taking care of ourselves during this global pandemic. Our co-host tonight is a young lady who I just love and adore. She's an amazing mental health expert. We've had her many times on this show as well as other shows. She goes as Dr. Wanda, but she is Dr. Wanda Parker, and we are excited to welcome her to the show tonight as our very special guest co-host. And let's bring her on in. Hello, Doc. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, Doc. I am. It's Monday, and even though it was a on and off rainy Monday here in Chicago, it was a hot and humid Monday here in Chicago. But other than that, I'm okay. How
Okay.
are you tonight, Doc?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you.
Good. I am so glad that you are
That's
here
right.
tonight. And wait a minute, somebody's saying I'm not audible at this time. Can you guys not hear me? Yes or yay or nay? I can hear you, Doc. I don't know why. Let's see if everybody
I
can
can
hear
hear
me
you as
on there.
well.
Yeah, no, everybody can hear us. Okay, I don't know what that's about, but okay, yeah, no, I'm audible on everything. All right, so Doc, do me a favor, tell everybody how you guys started as a mental health expert and what even drew you to the field.
Wow. So I started over 20 years ago. I started actually as a mental health tech. And I think I was drawn to the field because Um, I think a lot of times people don't understand mental health, and so you go to school with kids that are struggling with depression, but when you in school, you don't necessarily know it as that. Substance abuse, you see people really kind of struggling with that and not really knowing how to help people. So I think it's like people in your family that were struggling with it, being able to help them. Those are the things that kind of really make it more meaningful when you enter into the field, and so I think that's what drew me in, and also curiosity about mental health and psychology. And I've loved it ever since the minute I stepped into my first psychology class in high school. So I was destined and planned to do this work. So and I love it.
Doc, now more than ever, with everything that is going on in the world and people having to shelter in place, people losing their jobs, children being pulled out of schools, it's a lot for the mental, well-being of a human being. And I'm sure there's been an uptick in people who have been seeking therapy. I'm sure there's been an uptick in people taking medicine to deal with their anxiety and depression. I'm sure there's people who have there's been an uptick in the beverages, um, all of that. And so, what
Definitely
is
the
it
SDM.
like from? You've been so busy. It took us just now to be able to get you on the show.
Yeah, so, of course, mental health was an issue even before the pandemic, but you have people who haven't had mental health issues before that have a lot of anxiety. So I'm seeing a lot of that, but not just me, all therapists. I've heard a lot of the therapists having just this influx of people, and a lot of it is about anxiety. Some are depressed, some are lonely with all the sheltering in place, but a lot of it is about the anxiety, and anxiety is about the fear about the unknown, what's going to happen or what might happen. So we see that not just in adults, but also in children too, because they don't understand what's going on. So there are a lot of people seeking services. It's also easier now because there's teletherapy. But yes, people have anxiety, they have depression, and then we didn't have any kind of recovery time before we were at the place where we saw another Black brother get killed, and so that was one trauma on top of another. And so all of that, when I tell you, just about all the therapists that I supervise, when they go into a session and they talk about the stressors, people mention those two things: COVID-19 and the police brutality and the death of George Floyd.
Oh, we have so many
Yeah.
others to add to that list. Right now, we have a situation in
Yes.
Aurora, Colorado, where a 23-year-old young black man was killed last
Yes.
year, because he looked suspicious and he was,
Right.
infected with a drug that made his heart race. So, now more than ever, doctor, we're starting to see more and more of these stories of how black men have been a victim to just police brutality, racism, and it's a
Yeah.
lot.
It is a lot, but we've been seeing it all along, right? And I think that right now, on top of seeing those, we're also seeing those aggressions and racism of people calling because they feel like a black person should be in that building or at that business. And so all of that really kind of adds to that trauma. That we've been going through for years, and then for some of our kids, then how they view themselves through the eyes of these other people sometimes can contribute to the anxiety and the depression.
Mhm.
So when every time somebody passes away or gets killed, it's like we're losing one of our own, one of our family members, because we know it's senseless and it's no justice in it. So it's
Mhm.
difficult to deal with that when we know there's a justice system that really it means something different for us than
Okay.
it does for everybody else.
Okay. All right. Well, doctor, I want to start off tonight's show. You did a great job. We're glad to have you here. You always give us
Thank
great
you.
sound advice. Coming up later on in the show, Dr. Wanda Parker and I are going to talk about generational curses and just the mental health impact that has on you and your overall upbringing, as well as we're going to talk about just day-to-day things that trigger different things for you, Doc. I got a laundry list now that I'll tell you
Do
later
you?
that I'm now suffering with, and never in a million years thought that
Mm,
that would be the case. But because of the world in
mhm.
which we live in now, here we go. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that
Right.
feels this way. So, Illinois
That's
health
right.
officials reported 738 new known cases of COVID-19. Unfortunately, we had 14 additional fatalities, but that's really, those numbers are dropping on the fatalities as well as the new known cases. So, I commend you guys. Please keep wearing your mask, keep social
Mhm.
distancing, keep washing your hands and sanitizing. Y'all know I'm trying to get me a mask to match every outfit. I am color coordinated, as John
I've been
Witherspoon would.
seeing you.
I know. Is it something? I'm on the hunt now to make sure my mask match my outfit and all of that. So, I even wrap my hair up and everything. So I love it. Um, so here's the deal. This brings the total number of known cases in the state of Illinois to 142,461. And the number of confirmed deaths in the state of Illinois is 6,902. 6,902 would be the
It's a lot
confirmed
of
death.
people.
It is. It really is. It's a lot to deal with. Spencer Leak Jr. of Leak and Son Funeral Home was just featured in a story talking as a mortician about this, how this is weighing heavy on him. And keep in mind, this is what he and his family have done for
Right.
decades and have provided a beautiful service to the people of Chicago. But Doc, imagine
Yeah.
bodies on top of bodies on top of bodies. I mean,
Right.
even the Undertaker would get tired at some point, right?
That's right. And traumatized by it all. Yeah. That's true. That's
Hmm.
right. Yeah. So that's kind of sad. You never really think about that though. How would it
Hmm.
impact them? So it's interesting to even hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, here we go. The world has passed two sobering coronavirus milestones as of Sunday, yesterday, with 500,000 confirmed deaths and 10 million confirmed cases. And as you guys all know, a lot of places have been shut back down. Florida is no longer serving liquor in bar establishments. Texas has pulled back quite a bit. Mississippi has had some problems. A lot of these places, they, as Rick James would say, they busted out too soon, Doc, and now they're being reeled back in.
But you
And
had all that, they had all that pressure, right? From all the
yeah,
people saying, "Hey, let us out, let us out."
do you think the weather and it's the time of year for tiny shorts and bikini tops and no shirts and t-shirts, and do you think that's what it
Well,
is?
You can put that stuff on and go on TikTok and stay safe, But I think it's about people not wanting somebody else to tell them what to do. That's what it's about then. People will not wear a mask. I have some patients that are staunch Donald Trump supporters and don't want to wear a mask. One just recently came up with COVID-19, that traveled on vacation. So, it's like it's sobering once it happens, but there's this denial that it's going to happen to them, and they feel like it's a farce because that's what they've been fed.
It's sad. It really, really is. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Tomorrow marks the 6-month anniversary since the organization was first notified about this virus. Tomorrow is the 6-month anniversary. And here's the deal, Doc. We've been in the house and it almost feels like we've been on punishment for a year.
Yeah, it's been hard. It's really been hard, especially when you think about it for kids, right? They don't get, and if it's younger kids, they don't necessarily talk on the phone with their friends, so they don't really have a lot of outlets for that. So it's been difficult for them, and not knowing about what's going to happen for people's jobs and how that's affected them. I mean, all of it has been very difficult. And when you see the cases go up, people start to get more anxiety too, because then they're afraid that we're going to take 10 steps back.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to
Yeah.
deal with. Well, here's the deal. The first case was detected in China back in December, and the United States has become the worst affected country with more than 2.5 million diagnosed cases. And so that right there is just a lot to deal with in itself. And it's just incredible in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, then we got to look at what is it that we are doing wrong that other countries are doing right to really kind of ratify, this situation. And I think everybody in across the world, there's going to be some people who don't believe in it or want to be masked, but what is it that's happening here that's different?
Right. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a lot to deal with that. All right. So let's move on to some other news as well, too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we found out today that the 91st annual Bud Billiken Day Parade has been postponed due to COVID-19. As you guys all know, so many of the summertime's most memorable events have been canceled. A lot of, national and global events have been canceled. But as we all know, every year the Bud Billiken Parade is a symbol of the back to school season here in Chicago. It gives our inner city children a chance to shine and sparkle and present themselves to the world. And due to COVID-19, it's not going to happen this year. And so there's been some debate on social media, Dr. Wanda, about, should we all have a little funeral for Bud Billiken and call it a day, or do we just come back next year stronger and better? That wasn't me, but that's what some people were saying. And they are going to do a virtual celebration through ABC.
I was going to say, why not do that?
Right. Yes.
That's the answer to everything now.
Huh?
I say do a virtual one. That's the answer to everything right about now then. So you don't have to completely miss out. It may not be the same, but it'll be different. But at least it'll be represented. But I guess the other piece too is we don't even know how we sending off the kids to school in the fall. Everything is still up in the air, right?
Right.
We don't have enough information. And, a lot of it depends on whether the cases go up or down. But I say do it virtually,
Yes,
Why
absolutely.
not?
Yes, I think it would be a great idea. Second Saturday in August, as always. Do what we necessarily need to do to see it, and I think it'd be great. And find some of these amazing young people and tell them to submit their videos, and I wish them the best. And again, you have your naysayers and haters, and then you have people who have supported for a majority of the 91 years of the Bud Billiken Day Parade. But as
Wow,
of today,
91 years.
91
That's a long time.
years. Isn't that a long time? And when I worked for the Chicago Defender, I would meet women who would say to me, "Hey, Chat Daddy, I was Little Miss Bud Billiken 1962. I was the queen of the Bud Billiken Parade 1954. I was like, oh my God. So, something that's been around that long, I wonder how far back can they go and find Bud Billiken kings and queens that are still alive, and what are
That
they
would be a beautiful idea for the virtual one. That would be a beautiful
wouldn't that be
idea.
a cool
Yes,
idea to find
I
them,
would love to
let
see
them
that.
recollect on, what they, what it meant to them, how it all felt. Look, me and you done produced a damn show for them.
That's
So
right.
look,
That's cut
right.
us a check.
Right. Cut us a check, ABC 7 or whoever comes in on our idea. Don't be trying to
That's
watch
right.
FREE and then get all the good ideas. Well,
That's right.
Dr. Wanda, today is National Camera Day. And who knew it was National Camera Day? But we all love a camera. We all love to be photographed. And, so in honor of today being National Camera Day, I don't know if a lot of you guys heard or not, but my fellow sidekick on my radio show in the evenings, Mr. Mallory Sonia, was attacked by three gentlemen last week over in
Oh
the Jackson
no.
Park area of Chicago, the South Side. He ended up losing his cell phone, his laptop, and his computer. And as you guys
Is he
all
okay?
know, his laptop, his camera, and his cell phone. He is fine. He did sustain some injuries and he had to go to the hospital to have those injuries taken care of. But as you guys all know, Mallory's camera is his love. It's his girlfriend. It's all that he ever has done. He's taken beautiful pictures of many of us, myself and other people throughout, time.
Right.
So Mallory now has a GoFundMe page that is up. And the GoFundMe page is GoFundMe/Mallory Camera. And that's MALRIECAMERA. Go to GoFundMe. If you guys could, please donate whatever you can to help Uncle Mal. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Uncle Mal needs to be retired. He really does need to be retired. And if there's anything that we can do to give above what he's asking to replace his camera, his cell phone, his laptop, that's beautiful. I know we're all in ass out times right now. We're all, as they said, one check away from whatever it is. But Mallory has photographed the world throughout his career. And Uncle Mal is at an age where he should not even be in an area where he's being jumped by young men on his way home. That's a damn shame in itself. But if there's anything you guys can do to help Uncle Mal, please go to GoFundMe/Mallory Camera, MALRIECAMERA, and let's retire Uncle Mal. Let's retire him is what we're trying to do. We're just not trying to replace what he lost. We are trying to retire Uncle Mal, and maybe he can walk off into the sunset and find him something else to do with his life. Yes. So
that's just sad.
It is. It really, really is. It really is. So if there's anything you guys can do in honor of National Camera Day, which really is Uncle Mal's birthday, please do so and give to Uncle Mal. Okay. That's all I'm going to ask of you guys. All right. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right. Hey, Regina Rice. How are you, darling? All right. So you guys are tuned in to the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Art Chat Daddy Sims. And tonight, sitting in the captain's chair is Dr. Wanda Parker. Tonight is Mental Health Monday. Our entire show tonight is about getting that mind right. We've been going through a global pandemic now that has just been just a hot ass mess. I'm gonna tell it like it is, Doc. And so Doctor and I are going to talk about a plethora of things tonight that we hope will help you as well as your family. And, we're just doing what we need to do. So don't forget, you guys, to please donate to Uncle Mal if you get a few dollars, whatever the case may be. But our goal is to retire him. Okay. All right. Doctor, where are we now? Did you wanted to bring up in the news, my darling?
Did you see the two lawyer couples that had their guns pointed at protesters? Did you see that? I think that was in Washington.
Please help me understand this. And let me ask, what color were they?
They were Caucasian.
Okay.
And they were attorneys. Both of them are attorneys. And they had their guns and they had their hands on the trigger. because of protesters. They actually, the protesters was on the sidewalk, not on their property, but they said they had their guns out because the protesters were on their property. And they were waving the guns with their hand on the trigger, and it was just insane. It was insane. So yeah, I mean, I guess the reality is that this is the part where I said there's two justice systems, right? Because think about the lady. You remember the lady a few years ago who her husband or ex-husband was abusive, and she did a warning shot and she went to prison. So she could do that and end up in prison, and they can wave a gun to innocent people and nothing happens. And they're both attorneys.
So
But
let me
more and
ask
more
you,
we're seeing that.
Doc, why is, racism has been around for as long as we can remember. I've been abused by people of the other race. I know so many other
Me too.
black men that have been abused by people of the other race. You as an African American female, a woman who has,
Hmm.
garnered a high level of now being a doctor. Why is it now more than ever that racism is rearing its ugly head in our society? Is it
Well,
this
it's
damn
not new. You know,
pandemic?
it's not
What
new.
is it?
We've been experiencing it before, but yeah, we have people like Donald Trump in office who really creates that tension between the races, and he's really, I think, giving courage to a lot of people who were racist, but they were covert about it. It was undercover, and now they've taken out the cover and they're revealing it. Plus, everybody is being videotaped now too, right? Once upon a time, we didn't have camera phones and videotaping things, and now we do. So we have evidence of a lot of things that were happening all along. Then I think the other piece is that people getting fed up. Enough is enough. You got to deal with the doggone pandemic. You got to deal with everything else that goes along with this. I'm not willing to take one more day dealing with racism or you calling me a nigger or uh, whatever. I'm not willing to do that. And
Mhm.
so I think that a lot of people are saying enough is enough. And I think this is the beautiful part, is that seeing people that are white standing up and saying this is not right and calling it what it is. It ain't, a whole bunches and bunches of them, but it is some. And I like that, because I think it takes some level of courage to do that, to call things what they are and stand up.
Mhm.
So yeah, if we, but I don't think that it ain't nothing new. We've been through it, But I think the other piece is that sometimes we feel like you talk about that doctor in front of my name, we feel like we arrived, but reality is that when people see you, they see you as a black person, and it doesn't matter what your title, what your education level, what your socioeconomic status is. They see you as a black person.
But now, Doc, let's also look at the abuse and trauma that we take each other through, and we look like each other. When I say, i.e., same skin tone, same hair, same, you get what I'm saying? And so, I
Yes.
know you and I are going to talk about generational trauma and mental health in just a little bit. So maybe, you can wait, but why is it that we are also so abusive to each other?
Well, it's kind of like, how they say that when someone has been abused, that they can either, heal from it, be really empathetic to someone who's been abused, or they might be the predator. And so I think that everybody is vying for some level of power, feeling powerful, in a society where a lot of people end up feeling powerless. And I think that when people are disconnected, when they don't feel like they're connected to somebody important, like their family, and they're disconnected, it's dysfunctional, it's toxic, they're not connected, then what's grounding them? What's keeping them from doing bad things to other people? What's stopping them from burning down a place? What's stopping them from robbing? Talk about Miles. What's stopping that?
Mm,
Nothing is anchoring them, that's saying, okay, this is wrong, let's do this a different way. And I know it's hard for you right now, but and if they don't have that kind of nurturing and foundational, like, love and connection to people, then who's anchoring them? If they go out in a blaze, they're willing to do it.
yes, yes, I agree. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
very good. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Chat Daddy. Glad to be here with you guys on a rainy Monday evening here in Chicago. It's hot, humid, and rainy. It's a New Orleans type of night in Chicago.
That's
How
true.
do I know? Yeah, I've been there, done that. How do I know? Been there, done that. And look, Doc, I made jambalaya yesterday. So when I get off the
Did
air
you?
with you, yeah, I guess when I get off the air with you, I'll be able to go eat my jambalaya and pretend like I'm in New Orleans. You know what I'm
You gotta
saying?
send me some. Send me some through the waves.
I will. Look, I'll do some transmission of jambalaya to you. Yes, that's what I'll do. All right, we want to give a big old huge shout out to BET. Last night they celebrated their 20th year anniversary of the awards, but BET has actually been on television for 40 years. I can't believe BET has been on as long as I've been alive. I cannot believe that. But we want to give BET a big old shout out and a high five. Last night they honored Black excellence in entertainment and sports. They did a great job last night. The show was virtual, much like all of these other shows, my shows, any of the other shows that you guys see and
Mhm.
enjoy due to the corona pandemic. But here's the deal. Last night's virtual celebration of BET's anniversary was highly produced. It was well crafted, and all of the performances I thought were excellent last night. It really was a good time. It kicked off with Black artistry rapping and singing anthems about Black experience and fighting for equality. I almost passed out when Public Enemy came out talking about fight the power.
All
Dr.
right.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Like, who knew that Public Enemy's song "Fight the Power" would be our anthem in this day and age now? So they getting ready to get a
That's right.
resurgence in their career. You know what I'm saying?
And a check.
And a check. Hello, boo boo. And a
And
check. Yes. Following all-star performance about by Public Enemy. Did I say Public Enemy or Public Announcement? Public Enemy. The
Public
night.
Enemy.
The 1989 anthem "Fight the Power" featured Nas, Black Thought, Rhapsody, and YG, adding new lyrics that dropped Taylor and other people's names in it, which I thought was just great because it made it current and it made it now. And they probably could continue to keep adding names as they continue to
That's
keep
true.
singing the song because this dynamics had never changed. And so last night we saw a lot of performances that had to do with Black Lives Matters movement, the civil rights movement, and the number of lost lives, including the life that really has changed the trajectory of all of this is George Floyd's death. So
Mhm.
yes, and we also want to thank Viacom CBS for airing the BET Awards on regular TV. It was on regular Channel 2 last night. So if you don't have cable, if your cable been turned off or whatever the case may be, it was on regular Channel 2 last night as well as on BET. And you know it'll rerun a million times on BET, but we do want to thank them for such a wonderful
Yeah,
presentation.
that's
Did you
powerful.
get a chance to
That's
see any
powerful.
of it?
I just saw clips of things, so I didn't get. I have to do grading. My million jobs. So, but
Right,
I saw
right.
clips, and I think what Michelle Obama gave an award to Beyonce,
Yes, yes,
humanitarian award,
right.
and so I mean, if you go just getting a humanitarian award, period, is a beautiful thing. But you got First Lady,
Yes,
attorney at law, giving you
right.
the award. That was
Yes,
beautiful.
yes, yes, yes. I agree. I thought it was wonderful last night. I got to give a big old shout out to the baby. He had his face pressed against the ground as an officer was kneeling on his knee. Honey, the baby had on a necklace last night that I just wanted a link out the necklace because the necklace was so fabulous. But the
Wow.
baby showed the actual George Floyd moment as he rapped his Black Lives Matter remix of his song Rockstar. So I thought he was impactful last night, as well as the young
Mhm.
man who did the I Can't Breathe. I mean, I just thought, man, BET, you showed up, you showed
They did
out,
it right.
and they did it right. They really did. Yes, absolutely. All right, Doc, anything else you want to add
Mhm.
to that?
It's good to hear that. I think it's so inspiring what I have been seeing. People have really just been keeping it going, and you have to keep the momentum going because really we have been fighting this fight for so many years. Then, our
Mhm.
ancestors have been fighting the same fight,
Mhm.
and it gets tiring. And so I think we've gotten re-energized by just I think it came at the right time when we've been locked in the house, fed up and tired, and really tuned in. And I think that it created this momentum, and we just got to keep it going.
I do too. I all lives matter, but now more than ever, Black lives matter. And it's not that Black lives did not matter before, but I think the world as a whole will now pay better attention to the suffrage that we've been going through, the disadvantages, just I don't know, Doc. Here I am, as they say, a man in his seasoned years, and I just wonder day to day, Lord, how will I continue to move forward with just so many woes going on in this world right now?
Yeah. I think, we can't lose hope and we can't get discouraged by it because I think while there are some things that are horrible going on in the world, there are also some beautiful things happening too. And I think that we have to keep sight in that, and we have to call things as they are. Then I think a lot of times we do we put a lot of energy and time into trying to cover up. Part of it is because it's hard to swallow that people don't value us as people, and
Mm,
I think that that's one of the reasons why we have a hard time just kind of acknowledging that and continuing. But the truth is on the wall, and
mm,
unfortunately, we have some politicians that really forward that message of not valuing us. Then, but we spend a lot of
mm,
money. We spend a lot of money in businesses and around this town.
oh
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
so if we got to pay our way into freedom, then that's what we need to do. And when they don't have our dollars, then it all makes sense.
Yep, 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 yep. You're absolutely right about that. Well, Dr. Wanda Parker, I think we've pretty much covered all the hot topics and gossip and entertainment news for the night. We did have what Dr. Dre's wife is asking for a divorce, honey. She said irreconcilable differences, and they've been
They
together
always say that.
since the late 80s. Right.
What,
Kira,
24 years?
yeah, right. So let me ask you this, Doc. When people end up getting divorced after that many years with each other, what is usually the biggest problem?
Usually, quite honestly, after 24 years, people aren't getting divorced. Whatever bothered you for that long, you didn't learn to work around it. So a lot of people aren't getting divorced after 24 years. If you want out of this marriage, you dying out after 24 years of marriage. So it don't happen a lot at that point. But I think, I hate when they say irreconcilable differences because, the reality is that something happened that made it at this moment for you to decide that you didn't want to continue to share your life with this person that you shared your life with for 24 years. That's
Mhm.
a big thing. And what he's like 800 million he's worth. So what
Yeah.
does spousal support look like? And I think she's an attorney. I think I heard she was an attorney.
You know what? I would just want somebody that's worth $8,000 at this particular point. But he is worth $800 million.
That's a lot
Do,
of
do, you
money.
do you understand? That's a lot of money.
Yes.
I don't know. She gonna walk away with a nice little chunk of change, but Doc, I don't know. I've dealt with stuff on on a much lower level than that. And somebody worth that many millions, I don't know if I necessarily would be able to walk out. But I guess if it's no longer what you want it to
She
be,
didn't. She
right,
didn't for 24 years. She walked out.
right. I don't know. I don't know. I know people change. I know circumstances get different. I know Dr. Dre is probably around so much booty. It's just unbelievable. But
Yeah.
when you are married to somebody worth that many millions, I would find so many things to occupy my time. It's not even funny unless she done found
Well,
somebody. Look, unless she done found somebody to occupy her time.
Well, okay, that could be, but here's the thing though. I mean, I think when you reach that point that she's still gonna get some money and you don't want to be miserable. You don't want to spend the rest of your life miserable and trying to make up excuses for why he's not there or why he's, messing around with other people. Then sometimes people just get to the point where, they've the bile then broke. And they're like, that's it. I can't do this no more. Even if I don't get no money, I gotta leave.
Oh
And I
wow.
would hope in 24 years she didn't build up her own accounts.
Right,
So,
right, right. So I don't know. I don't know. I just hate to hear whenever a black couple, have broken up, and especially a power couple like that. But I guess it happens. So we'll see. And I'm sure, we wish Dr. Dre and his wife the absolute best. But they have
yeah,
been. She is a lawyer. That's what somebody just confirmed. She is a lawyer.
yeah,
So
that's what I heard.
look. I know she getting ready to sue his ass like
That's
you
the
would to
last
me.
person that you want. That's the last person that you want to divorce. That's an attorney.
Look, somebody said, look, let's take this off of Dr. Dre. Maybe she effed up. Right. Maybe she did. I
She
don't
might
know.
have.
She could have.
I
Look,
mean, we don't know.
it's not uncommon for women to mess up, is it?
It's not, and guess what? It might be that neither one of them messed up. They just tired of playing that game. People grow out of love, and they fall apart. And sometimes they end up being from husband and wife that goes to being roommates, and
Right.
and they don't want to live that way anymore because you can't date somebody else if you're married. So, well, you shouldn't be anyway. And maybe they just want a clean break. So it might not be either one of them messed up.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes great sense. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Parker. We've done a great job with celebrity news, top news stories of the day, the COVID statistics, all of that great stuff. For those of you all that are just tuning in, I'd like to welcome you to the Monday night edition of the Chat Daddy Show, the real Chat Daddy Show, coming to you from the green room right here. Dr. Parker had to ask me if I had any pants on earlier. I said, I got on shorts. But that's about it. That's about it. I got on shorts. But I'm here to entertain you guys Monday through Thursday night. This is a reality news show, variety show. Every night there are new and different guests. I have very special guest co-hosts each and every night. Tonight is Mental Health Monday. And our very special guest is Dr. Wanda Parker, noted mental health expert with over 20 years of experience in the mental health field. And so Dr. Parker is getting ready to talk to us about generational curses, how to break those, and how those generational curses might actually be affecting how you live in this day and age. And you know what, Dr. Parker, I must agree with you 100%. So as you're talking, I guarantee you I'll probably be able to chime in, add a story, all of that great stuff. So
Mhm.
Dr. Parker, how long has this been going on with people in these generational curses?
Well, I mean, it's been going on as long as time has been going on because we pass on those stories, those experiences. Our families have seen us struggle, and it just continues on and on and on, and it affects us, and it impacts how we see the world. So that's what happens then, and we've been displaced and disconnected for quite some time. So those things really kind of add up. People feel like they don't have any power. So it was no surprise when people were looting, as far as I can see, because people who felt powerless felt some level of power during that moment, and I think that that's the result of generational traumas is when we pass it on. They even say that there's some genetic pass on, we call it epigenetics, where those traumas get passed down even through the genes and those coping skills that are affected and that stress, that toxic stress that goes throughout the generations gets passed on through the generations, and our ability to cope with stress can be impacted by what we got genetically. So we really have to zoom in on our healing. We focus a lot of times on helping other people, but how do we help ourselves and our people and our family to really recover from that trauma, because there's a lot of residual stuff that goes on. So,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that we see in the communities is some of that residual stuff. When you talk about, I hate when people do this though, when they talk about what about black on black crime, and that to me, bothers me because that is an issue. It's a separate issue though, but it's an issue, but part of the issue is that when people feel disenfranchised, when there hasn't been investment in them, either individually, as a community, as a family, then people feel like they're on the outskirts. People on the outskirts, they
Mhm.
revolt. They revolt,
Right,
right? How-
right,
And so
yeah,
that's no surprise.
right.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
it's
so
so
so when
interesting. And you know what people don't really understand, Dr. Parker, is that there are people, black and white, right now, living in extreme poverty, living in don't know what they're going to do from one day to the next, living, to the point that they don't know how they're going to pay their monthly bills. Now that we've added a pandemic in here, people are on their wits' end. And the thing is that if your family has gone through this generational cycle of just unfortunate, bad things that happen, a dear friend of mine's, I tell people, JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling, the story of Richard Pryor's life is one of my favorite films. And one of my dear friends, he and I were looking at the film one day, and he said, I can't look at this anymore. And I said, why? He said, much like Richard Pryor was raised in a whorehouse, I was raised in a whorehouse too. And he said that all he ever knew was that pleasure was how you brought people into you. You lured them in through pleasure. And he says that he's never had a sustainable or satisfying relationship because he was raised in a whorehouse and didn't know it until Richard Pryor's movie JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. So
that's
you're
a
right.
perfect example of that.
Right. But I don't even know what to say, Doc. Help me with this.
You know what? I once worked with a young lady who said we were talking about, it was a sex education group, a therapy group, and we were talking about when did we receive messages about sex, and she talked about how she was 14 years old, came to her mom and asked for some money for, you know how they had those little parties at school, and her mother said, "Why are you asking me for money when you got all that money in between your legs?" And so that was her first introduction then. And it was traumatizing, right? You never are the same, after something traumatic happens, then it really changes you. And so she got the message from her mom, which her mom got the message from her mom, right? So we talk about those generational traumas, right? That if you want money, then you don't ever have to be without money because you can use your sex, you can use your sexual organs to get money then. And so that's what she told her. You got all that money in between your legs. Why are you asking me for money? But that was also a
And
message that her mother received
wait,
from
Doc.
her mother.
And she was how old? She was how old, Doc?
14 years old.
Her
Yeah.
mother at 14 told her your money is between your legs.
Right.
So,
And her
so
mother got that message from her mother before. Yeah.
I don't
So when
know.
we talk about that, we talk about that trauma, then that's what we're talking about. That gets passed down then, those messages. And then here's the piece then, and we feel like, yeah, it's unfair. Life is unfair. And that perspective gets changed. Once we have something like that, now we see the world through a different lens, right? So at 14, she saw life through a different lens. Another example is he had a lady, and she's actually a black psychologist, and she talked about how when she was in the South and she saw a sign that said colored fountain. And so a colored water fountain. And so she said she was excited about it because she was thinking Kool-Aid, colored water, right? So she go up
Right.
to the fountain expecting to see some colored water coming out of it. And she said at the same time as she was heading up, it was a little white girl that was coming up too. And she wanted some too. She was thinking along the same lines. I want to see this colored water too. And her mother grabbed her and said, "No, that's for colored people." And that was at that moment she realized that this fountain wasn't about colored water. It was about separating her. And that was a traumatic experience that she carried with her. That we have some different value and that somehow we can't even drink out of the same fountain. So I'm talking about those types of traumas that are difficult to deal with. And once the imprint comes, it's there. And a lot of times we end up passing it down. Maybe not always knowingly. Think about the fear of police. That's been in the community for a while. Why? Because there's also been police brutality for a long while. And I'm not saying that all police are bad, because we also know that there are some good ones. But we have in the community learned to distrust, because we've seen, them being on the other side of protests. And this is, the whole George Floyd thing is not new. We've seen that. We've seen them decide that there's a death sentence for something that is minor or nothing at all, right? You can have a light out. And so I think those are things that feed into that shared trauma that we've had, group trauma that we've had for some time.
Mm-hmm. I came to a conclusion one day. When you really sit back and look at your family dynamic and who you come from and where you come from, there, I'm sure, and I'm not the only person, because I've had this conversation with quite a few other people, but when you realize that you come from a really dysfunctional family and you're trying not to be of the dysfunctions they're from, and you trying to deal with your own dysfunctions, that's a lot to deal with. It really is a lot to deal with. And so what advice would you want to give to people who come from dysfunctional families? Because keep in mind, Dr. Parker, you and I are the generation that we departed that dysfunctional family. We went and did better things. We went and got big houses and cars and jobs and things like that. But we really do come from a lot of dysfunction that had been generational dysfunction. So now a lot of times we're looked at as being bad for trying to get away from that dysfunction.
Well, I think first of all, we got to kind of like dispel that whole piece of whatever happens in a family stays in a family, because then that shuts down therapy, that shuts down your healing. So we have to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold that secret anymore. I'm not going to carry that with me anymore, because I'm more about my healing than keeping this family secret. So I think that's one thing that we need to do. The other one is that we have to admit that we have had some unhealthy situations, some traumatic situations in our family that we even need to heal from. Because some people just go around and, they toxic and they spilling over on people, not even realizing it. So take ownership for the fact that, some things have happened in your life that you need to heal from. And then take ownership in what that means. Then what do you need to do? Get into therapy, do some self-work, get into yoga, whatever it is that you need to do to really kind of heal all that, so that you can also maybe bring back some level of healing for your family. But it starts with you.
Okay. All right. Very good. One of our faithful listeners and viewers, Watika, wrote on the page, great aunt came to Chicago from Little Rock at the age of 19, lived in a rooming house with prostitutes. They taught her a lot about life. She eventually became an ordained minister. And so I think a lot of people who have really, as the gospel songs say, was raised on the rough side of the mountain, are the people who continue to go do ministries. And when I say ministries, much of what you do, doctor, is a ministry. Much of what I do is a ministry. Those that speak the gospel, that's a ministry. So, I guess it's the past experiences that make you want to really not, be associated with your past, right?
It's a heavy load to bear, right? It's a lot carrying all of that. And so, yeah, you do want to be lighter. You don't want to have to bear those burdens and carry all of that the rest of your life. And then what happens is that here's one thing that is a sign that you have that toxic or toxicity, is that you find yourself in relationships, and in your relationships, you spilling over. And it's like, if every relationship you end up in that it goes wrong, then you really have to do some self introspection then, even if it's for no other reason than maybe who you decided to pick then. So a lot of those things are mirrors for you. You realize how you deal with communication, how you act when you're feeling vulnerable or attacked, and those things, they kind of predate that relationship. They came from somewhere else. Then some of those unhealthy dynamics happen within your households, or some of those primary relationships that you had, and then we just carry them on. And we want to do different. We want to live a happy life. We want to have 24 years plus in a marriage, like Dr. Dre. We want to be able to do that and be healthy and be happy and live our life, because we got one life to live, and we got enough stressors, right? We got to go outside the door and deal with all the stress that goes on there. One thing I always say is that when you come home, that should be a place of peace. If it's a place of turmoil, you don't have nowhere to go. Where you gonna get it? Where you gonna get it from, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be able to have that at home. You may not be able to make sure that you can orchestrate it at your job, and when you step outside in that world, you're gonna have, Karens and everybody else, trying to attack. You got to have a place where it's safe emotionally, safe physically, and you got to be able to rejuvenate. And if you don't have a place to do that, then it's hard to go from one day to the next to the next.
You know what, Doc? I could not agree with you more. I tell people I don't care where I live, whether it's under a bridge or in a penthouse apartment in a high-rise building, where I lay my head has got to be the most peaceful,
Right.
tranquil situation that I like, that's to my comfort and to my standards. I tell people I learned to be an interior decorator at a young age. And I look, if I'm living in a damn shoebox, that shoebox is gonna be 4 rooms with a jacuzzi tub. You get what I'm saying? And again, we're talking about living in a shoebox. But
Hmm.
I a lot of people move in places and don't ever make them their homes, and I don't get that. You don't put no artwork up, you don't put any
Hmm.
paint, you don't do anything to make yourself feel like, Lord, thank you for this roof over my head. Lord, thank you that I can come into my sanctuary and do what I need to do. And I've never understood why people don't make their homes
You
their
know what
sanctuary.
though? I will tell you, this is so funny because I had a job. I got a job and I didn't really care for it too much. And so my office, I didn't have any pictures or anything. And one of the CEO came into my office one day and he said, you ain't got no pictures on your walls or anything. He said, "You leaving?" And I was like, "Well, not right now." Within, I think, a month later, I was gone. So I think it's about being in transition. Sometimes when people are in transition, they don't know how to kind of just nest and relax and settle down and just be at peace and get comfortable.
Let me put it to you like this, Doc. Through all of my transitions, through all the things that have happened in my life, when I decide this is where I'm getting ready to lay my head and I'm comfortable about the decision, I can't go to bed till my place is fully decorated.
Mm,
You get what I'm saying?
all right.
Whether
I hear you.
whether it's paint, whether it's hanging pictures, whether whatever it is, because here's the deal. As you said before, when you exit and leave out, the world is attacking your ass like Miss Pac-Man. Gobble, gobble,
That's right.
gobble, gobble. When I come
Hmm.
inside my house and lock the door, I want to come into whatever it is, and it's a sanctuary and a haven for me to get away from the world. And so I think,
That's
that
right.
I think a lot of people, because I know people been living places 20 years and they never even put a coat of paint on the walls, ain't never even hung up artwork or never anything that they are, oh, this is where I lay my head at. Yeah, but that also means a lot of chaos going on in your head as well, too.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is a reflection of something that's going on, whether it be not being able to really be comfortable in your own skin or whatever. It's something else going on. But I've seen that sometimes too. But I also know that again, we got to have some place, wherever that is. You got to have some place where you feel comfortable, where you can be vulnerable, where you can kick off and not have to be judged, not have to be fighting, not have to be. Watching your back, hiding your purse. Uh, you know, you got to be able to live your life in that way. And if you don't have that, then you got to get that. If you don't have peace, then you got to get it.
Right, right. Okay. I couldn't agree with you more. All right. Well, doctor, what else do we need to know about breaking generational curses? Because it's been here, it really, I'm not impressed anymore with people that say to me, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years. Oh, I've been here for 20 years. Oh, I'm not impressed with that, because if you've not changed the status quo in all that time, that means to me you are very displacent in who you are and in your circumstances and situations.
So you know what I always say? I say that, when people are realizing, because we don't always realize the stuff that was traumatic to us. Like when you talked about, getting out of those toxic situations and those unhealthy family units and relationships, we don't even always realize. Think about the first time when kids realized that their family was toxic when they went over to somebody else's house that had actually a healthy family. And that's a rude awakening, right? When you realize that. So I say that there are two things. One is when you first discovering it, it's an explanation, not an excuse. You didn't know. You didn't know all that stuff and how it impacted you and affected you. So it's a reason why. But once you know, then you have an obligation to use that to try and get some level of healing and seek some clarity in your life and kind of purge yourself of that, so that you don't use it as an excuse. So initially, it's a reason. It's a reason, but then it's an excuse when you don't do anything with it.
Wow. Yeah. I guess I don't know. The one thing that I'll say, I've had the most fascinating career ever. Doctor, you've known me for many, many years. And,
Hmm.
and, I think my resilience has allowed me to stay relevant. My resilience has allowed me to continue to push forward. I think being fabulous is what makes me stay sane. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the
Right.
game man. You always want to look good. So,
Hmm.
but sometimes I get tired, I get weary. Sometimes I go through a lot of anxiety and depression. This, particular situation in which we're living in right now is just mind-boggling in many ways. To keep in mind, I lost one
Hmm.
media form because of a pre-existing health condition in COVID. Now I'm
Right.
trying to pivot and reinvent myself. For people
Hmm.
out there who are really struggling right now, and I know that's what you and I are going to talk about at 8 o'clock, let's get this party started. Of just what's one thing you want me to focus on from here on out to be a better person?
Well, I think the pivot is important, but the other piece is to allow ourselves to feel. I think a lot of times we don't want to. I don't want to get depressed. I don't want to be anxious. You don't want to be in the state of depression or a state of anxiety, but you want to allow yourself to feel that in that moment then. Be true to yourself there. It is overwhelming, so you're going to have a moment of depression or sadness or grief. So allow yourself to grieve it, but then shake it off and the next day start over again. And guess what? The next day after that, it might be a bad day, and that's okay because the next day after that, you can recover from it. So we have to keep fighting and we can't give up, but we also have to allow ourselves to go through that moment then and not deny ourselves that, or not let somebody else tell us, hey, you need to, shake your the dust off your feet and stop being depressed. Allow them to be depressed for that moment. Just don't get stuck there. you know
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I mean, this has been a hard time. This whole pandemic and how it's affected us. And think about how it started off. You couldn't even get tissue and paper towel and food, And so people that weren't anxious when they stepped into the store, that anxiety hit them like a rock. Like, wait, I can't get no steak. I can't find no ground beef. I can't find no vegetables. I can't get no tissue. I ain't seen no Clorox wipes since January. Okay, so I'm just saying that those things hit you like a brick. They hit you like a brick because this is a different world. We haven't experienced this before.
Right.
So that's a lot. That's a lot.
I don't know. It really is. It truly, truly is. Well, Dr. Parker, are you enjoying yourself tonight?
I am. I am. I'm having a good time hanging with Chat
Good.
Daddy, the infamous.
Good. Glad the infamous, right? Infamous and famous, honey. Look,
That's
I
right.
always think, if I died, do I want to die infamous or do I want to die famous? And I said, oh Lord, I said, that's kind of interesting. But here's the deal: I wouldn't mind dying infamous and famous.
I was just gonna say, can you do both?
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind dying both, infamous and famous. All right. So listen, you guys, coming up on the Tuesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. Last week, I put a call out for people who are concerned about losing their jobs due to COVID-19. There have been record-breaking numbers of people who have lost their jobs. People are still filing unemployment claims as we speak today. And for a lot of people, they have not recovered from the economy crash of 2008 and 2009. I have friends who actually lost their jobs then, had to end up switching career fields altogether. I had friends that were in the computer industry that had to end up going to work at box hardware stores, places like that. So tomorrow night, we sit down and talk to two ladies. One lady has survived COVID-19, and she is still going through a lot of issues of experiencing health problems. Keep in mind, COVID is new. So for a lot of people who have survived, they don't know what the outcome of their health will be. They have other organs that were damaged at the time. Well, this lady is about to lose her job if she does not return back to work, and she is not fully healed from COVID-19. And then we'll meet another young lady who was laid off due to COVID-19, and she is really pondering whether or not she is going to go back to work, even if they call her back, because this has been a life-changing experience for her. But she also wants to start her own business. So tomorrow night, Kay Renee Mason is our very special guest co-host. And as you guys all know, she shared her story of how she's had to pivot and do things differently. She does Karen's Nuggets every day on Facebook, where she gives you words of encouragement. Well, tomorrow night, she'll be here with me to talk to these two amazing women about surviving COVID, what's next, and she could possibly lose her job, and then B, a woman who does not necessarily know if she would want to go back to her job, and she's thinking about starting her own business. So make sure you tune in to the Real Chat Daddy Show tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. right here on the Real Chat Daddy Show on Facebook, the Real Chat Daddy Show on YouTube. Glad you guys are tuned in. All right, Doc, you okay?
I'm right. I'm fine. I'm listening to that.
You
It's
good?
just kind of sad, all the life changes that people have to go through in this time, real difficult
Well,
time.
Doc, I'm so used to sitting down talking to people from 6 to 9 p.m. that, again, I was just going to kind of call it a day, move on, lick my wounds, and do what I needed to do. And a dear friend said, nope, you're going to continue to do this. And I said, well, let's agree to 7 p.m. Let's go to 8:30. Some nights the show go to 9. I don't have to worry about commercials, any of that. And here we are, and people are loving this, and people are happy that I'm here. But when you are going through a lot mentally and physically, it's hard to even just fathom trying to do this or do anything other than trying to
Yeah.
regroup and center yourself. Right.
And I know that, with a lot of the folks that I work with, my advice to them is you got to take it one day at a time. I think when you're going through a crisis like this, you want to fix everything right away, right? Because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. But you can't take it all on in one day. And so you got to take one day at a time, and things like making a list of what you're going to do that day can keep you focused on what you need to do that day instead of being overwhelmed and piling it then. And that can help you keep some level of movement and momentum then. But I think also, like you said about the lady not sure that she's going back to her job, it's also a time to really kind of self-reflect. Do I want to continue going in this direction? Is it another direction that I wanted to go in and I never really had the opportunity or sought the opportunity, and now may be that time, for me to do it. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of self-reflect and evaluate where we at now and where we want to be. I always ask that question for people. I ask them when I interview people. I ask them when I'm counseling people is, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Because that's important. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Then you should be working on the road to there. And so if this where you at now is not where you want to be 5 years from now, then you got to do something different.
Well, you know what? I've done that 5-year thing, Doc, and here's the deal. I know where I want to be. I know where I want to go. I just think I've been in a lot of unfortunate situations, and I've dealt with a lot of shady ass people. And the thing is that now this will allow me to pivot and take control of every aspect of what I need to do.
And that's what's important, right? You want to try to control as much as you can, and the part that you can't, how can you navigate it then? Because it's not everything in our lives that we're going to be able to control. And we're going to run into some bumpy roads during the path, though, but we don't give up then. And if it is truly where we want to be in 5 years, then we don't stray off of the road. Even if we get knocked out, we get back on it. Then, we might have to reinvent it. We might have to go a different route. Maybe we buy a car and now we buy a bus, but we don't give up and we stay on the road then. And maybe we have to walk sometimes, right? Until we get that car. So, but we stay on the road. So we don't let the situation like a pandemic throw us off the path then. It may just slow us down, but don't stop us going forward.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. Well, Dr. Parker, now we're going to talk about different family dynamics and how I guess we're able to talk to everybody in the family. For young children, anybody over the age of 2, they're requiring them to have a mask on whenever they're out in public. And doctor, I can only imagine trying to explain to a 2, 3, a preschooler that, listen, you got to wear this mask. You cannot be without this mask on. To a preschooler, this is a lot of fun and it's cute. But it would have to also play on their psyche as well, too. How do we talk to our preschoolers about the situation that we're in right now?
Well, firstly, we can say that the reality is that no matter what you say to them, a preschooler is not going to keep their doggone mask on. We just got to have some level of acceptance for that. It's just not going to happen. And I think that we have to create workarounds. But I think it's not. I mean, we have to always talk to children in an age appropriate way. So we can tell them, like, when you get sick with like a cold, well, it's like that. It's a bug like that makes you sick, and so if you wear your mask, it'll keep you healthier. And really it's that simple for a kid that age, and you wouldn't want to go into anything greater than that. So I think that it's age appropriate conversations with them about it. There's a lot of books that have been created out. I'm a part of therapist and psychologist blogs, and a lot of the clinicians have created books on how to explain COVID-19 and what you need to do. So they're out there if people want access and want help with introducing that to younger kids. And for older kids, then I think that the most important thing is that there's conversations going on, because they can get depressed, they can grieve. I mean, think about teenagers, their life revolves around their social outlets. And so not being able to have those interactions and hang out with friends can be depressing, and it can be anxiety producing because they're afraid that they're going to lose friendships in this time and this distance away, at a key time, in their life when they need that to even help figure out who they are. And so having conversations with them, I think a lot of times as parents, we have to juggle trying to keep our stuff under wrap while we also are reaching out to our kids to try and see what's going on with them. So I think that is the key for older kids, is staying tuned in, doing like a screening kind of, question, how you doing with this? How's it going with being in the house? Is there some other way that you're able to communicate with your friends? What are some things you can do? And for younger kids, making sure it's age appropriate so you're not scaring the heck out of them about this COVID-19. So I think that's hard sometimes, and we got to compartmentalize as adults so that we're not moving our fear off on them, because I think that's too heavy of a burden for our children.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, Dr. Parker, I do want to talk about our elderly population. For a lot of our family members who are in nursing homes and living facilities, visitors have been barred. People have not been able to really go in and love on grandma, grandpa, whoever might be in that nursing home. And so, for a lot of the elderly, they feel as if once they go in that nursing home, their family will desert them and not be there for them.
That's the beginning of the end.
Right. So what words of encouragement can we give to that older population, the population that's at risk, the population that, Lord Jesus, if I get this COVID, I'm going to die. So what advice would we be giving them?
So is it for the elderly or the family members of the elderly, or both?
You know what, Doc? Let's do a montage of both. Let's get everybody straight.
Okay.
That's what we
All
do
right.
on this show.
So
Let's get everybody straight.
okay, well, let's get them all straight then. Let's start with the family. I would say for the family, then making sure you're checking in on that person by phone. Uh, Build a relationship with the nursing staff or the CNA that's there, so that they can let you know how your family member is doing, and maybe even put a phone, maybe show them how to do FaceTime, so that you can stay in contact the best that you can during this time. Those things are important. So whatever that contact is like, then making sure that there's this ongoing contact, so they don't feel like you forgot about them in this time. For the elderly person, I would say that we really it's a hard conversation actually when you talk about an elderly person. But here's the reality that we have seen elderly folks in the hospital on ventilators from COVID-19 recover. And we've seen some younger people who didn't make it. So just because you're older, just because you have chronic medical issues, it don't mean that it's going to take you out. Some of it is about health, and some of it is about your will to fight. And I know a lot of seniors that are fighters. Then they're not giving up, and so that makes a big difference. Then when we've given up already, then anything can come along. It doesn't even have to be COVID, but when we're still fighting, then we can fight COVID too. So I think that that's the key message. Then is continue your fight. Don't let your age or your chronic medical conditions tell you that you're not going to make it. And for the family members, make sure you support like you can, whether it be calling on a regular basis. If you got to send a letter, if we got to go old school, send a letter. Let people know that you're thinking of them, so they don't feel like they just banished to a place where they're away from anybody that cares about them.
I love it. I really, really do. I think it's a good thing. Doctor, what about our relationships right now? For those of us that are well, I'm part-time single. I'm not full-time single. I'm part-time.
You got to tell me what that means. Tell me what that means.
I got a mental boo thing, but I don't have a physical boo thing. Does that make sense?
Okay. All right. All right.
I have a
Sometimes those mental connections are stronger.
I have a mental boo thing that everything is just lovely, copacetic, all of that. I don't have a physical boo thing right now. And so I'm worried about the physical boo thing for the simple reason of
maybe you got one now.
No, trust and believe.
Just arrive right on time. Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
He ain't did it this time, baby. No, that's somebody else. Honey, that's on some gossip. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm afraid of the physical boo thing. I'm afraid that if I put myself out there now, we're looking at COVID, we're looking at STDs, we're looking at how do I tell you we need to go get tested for all of this. And then keep in mind that New York's health department put a guide out about sex, and most of the things that I like to do or have done, they said it's a no on that health list. So how do you wrap your mind even around trying to meet somebody after all of this?
Well, I think it just slows things down, and that's good because we've been in, I call it a popcorn society where everything pops real quick. And so now this has slowed people down where they actually take the time to get to know people. So you can still communicate via webcam, FaceTime, talk on conversations. I mean, heck, if you want to, you can send some letters too, right? But this slows things down so you get to know that person then, so that you really get to know whether or not you want to take it to that next level. So in a way, I think that's good. You may not mean overnight you'll have that, but at least you'll be kind of sowing the seed and cultivating something where you get to know somebody that you may want to have in your life, not just in a sexual way, but in a more meaningful way.
Well, Doc, I want somebody to rub on it. I want somebody to smack it, flip it. I mean, I don't know. I
well,
think
then
I'm
you
like
better go on Adam and Eve. Go on Adam and Eve and order you some stuff then until all this stuff blow over.
Oh, come on, Doc. You got to give us better hope than that. My God.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, if you're a risk taker, then go ahead. But the other piece is that, like you said, when we talk about people going get tested before they get intimate, now we might be adding COVID testing into the mix now,
Right,
right? That we asking
right.
people to do. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's just a change of the times, and who knows if that'll go away. So I mean, if you really feel it with somebody, because some people are already in the midst of relationships that hadn't taken that step yet. I don't know that you have to decide not to, then you could just do it safely, as safe as you
Uh,
can anyway.
okay, well, Doc, here's another one. Somebody just texted me and they said, what do you do when this coronavirus shutter in place has now made you not want to continue your relationship with who you've been with? We almost looking at Dr. Dre and his wife. This is not unheard of. We've heard many stories like this where people are sick and tired of whoever it is that they're with, and they want to move on and do something different. But this is not an easy task. Now, Dr. Dre and his wife, they got money, but for the everyday regular person, or even somebody that might be in a domestic violence situation, this might not, be the most feasible time to get out the
No,
situation.
it's not. I mean, it's like a magnified torture chamber at home if you're in a domestic violence situation. So, I mean, those are things that, and if we know of some people that you suspected or they shared that, we should be checking in on them then. Because while they might not have been before because they had outlets, they could go to work, they could leave and hang out with family a little bit, and now they kind of like stuck in the house. We should be checking on them because they may feel like this is the moment then. This is the moment where they're not going to go through that anymore. As it relates to relationships, well, I've seen some relationships flourish. Some couples, I do a lot of couple work. Some couples are flourishing in this time. They've learned to appreciate and love each other, and they've been made to spend time, quality time with each other, and it's helped them as a couple and as a family. But then there's also some people that realized that they were running from their relationship. They weren't at home much, and they weren't spending time with those people in their house that is their husband or wife or their significant other much at all. And now having to be stuck in, they realize that, okay, I can't do this anymore. They might have been able to buy a few more years if they didn't have where they were stuck in the house with them, but being stuck in the house lets them know that we're not compatible. We don't even love each other anymore, and in some cases they don't even like each other anymore. And so I think, as much as this year has been rough and we're only halfway through, it's also being a clarifying year, I think, in so many ways.
I don't know. I really don't. And anytime somebody tells me that they're having a relationship problem or issue, I just immediately start praying for them because, now is not the time to be going through just a lot of drama. Again, people losing their jobs, health concerns. As we see, they're closing places down across the country. The numbers are steady rising. The younger population is steady contracting COVID now. And so, I don't know. I just would want my love and my relationship to stay consistent more than anything. That would be my biggest thing. And my mental relationship that I'm having right now is the most beautiful thing ever because it secures my mental well-being. But I'm sure those that want to get rubbed, smacked, and flipped, be
You
careful.
might want to turn that mental thing into something else. But I think the other piece is that, what if it's not that though? What if it's not that beautiful thing? It's that thing that has been nagging at you that you weren't sure that you wanted to stay in, or you knew you didn't want to stay in, but you just didn't know how to get out. So I think that this is that moment then that people are saying, okay, I don't want that, because you can have consistent bad relationships and you can have consistent healthy ones. So when you talk about stable, well, it can be stably unhealthy. And do people want to stay like that? And I always use a year from now, do you want things to be like this? If you've been in a marriage for 24 years and it ain't got better, chances are, I always believe in hope, and so people can change as long as they live in, but after 24 years, chances are things aren't going to change, and so you have to make some decisions. Do I stay or
Mhm.
do I go? Do I want to keep this, or am I better just not having anything at all?
And I'd hate to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Just not
Yeah.
to have anything at all. Do you think dating will change as we know it from this particular point on?
Um, I think it definitely will. I think also we changed through this too. So I think as individuals we change. I think our perspectives change and what people believe. And what I know some people who say that okay, if they ain't down with the cause, then I don't want them on my team. I don't want to hang with them. You know, people have really drawn some lines in the sand related to that. I think that the professions that people are seeking after, that this has changed for that. Going to school has changed. A lot of things have changed because of what we're going through now. And I don't think that it'll completely go back to the way it was. So yes, I think dating has changed. I think that we were already in a age where people were using technology, and so I think they're just doing that more. Some people are having virtual dates, and so I think yes, our world has changed now, and there's some stuff that we want to keep, and there's some stuff that we'd like to go back to.
Hmm. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Doctor, what else we need to talk about tonight?
So I think that this is also a good time, and I've said it before, that people who know that they need to reach out and get some mental health treatment, they need to work on some of those demons that they've been carrying around. They need to work on some of those unhealthy dynamics, and maybe they don't know how to say no to people in their life. They don't know how to set boundaries in their life. Um, this is a good time for them to reach out for therapy. Then you can do it through video conference. You know, you can reach out and get that help and really work on yourself, so when things open up, your life is actually opened up in a different way then, because you have a different perspective, right? And so I'm a big believer, of course, in therapy, and people really kind of working through the stuff that they've been carrying around. Because I think that's the other thing, is that people being locked up in a house by themselves or even with other people, then they also have to look at themselves. Then they get to see some unhealthy dynamics. They get to see the things that they wish they had done that they hadn't. And so this is the time for it. When you talk about life changes and losing a job, then if you lost a job, then that means that there's something else out there for you, you know. And when you talk about wanting to have a stable relationship and feeling bad, I say that sometimes you have to purge and create space for the healthy things that you want in your life, right? You know, so if we keep that room occupied by something unhealthy or a road that we don't want to go, then it's not room for the stuff that we really want then. And I think that that creates that space. So not every loss is a bad thing. Sometimes it's creating capacity for you to really have what you wanted in your life.
Yeah, that makes good sense. It really, really does. All right, let me do this real quick. For those of you all that are just tuning in, welcome to the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. We have about 10 more minutes of tonight's show left. I am your host, Chat Daddy. I am here Monday through Thursday night from 7 until 8:30 p.m. Some nights we go to 9 o'clock, depending on what we're talking about, what the hot topic is, all that great stuff. I really do appreciate you guys so much for your love and support. Please do me a favor, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Real Chat Daddy Show page. I could use all the help I could, you guys. I'm not like the rest of these other people with 1 billion followers and all of that. This show is very organic, but it's a very genuine show. So if you guys could please go to YouTube and subscribe to the Real Chat Daddy Show page, I would greatly appreciate that. This show also has a page, The Real Chat Daddy Show, on Facebook. Yes, go like it there. Please share, start a watch party. Tonight is Mental Health Monday, and our very special guest tonight is Dr. Wanda Parker, mental health expert of over 20 years. Dr. Parker has been here with us tonight to talk about everything from generational curses to COVID-19 to how do we talk to our children, just do many different things that we need to talk about to make sure we are enriching our lives a little bit better. We're living in very stressful times between the political season, COVID season, the unemployment season, can't get your booty rubbed season, all of that. Girl, you can't get your booty rubbed. No booty call. You know, Dr. Parker, I told my audience last week that I won't be going out, hanging out, having a good time until the governor comes on the TV and said, look, we in stage 6. Booty call season is officially back open.
Or you could
Can't
call,
do
but ain't nobody answering right now.
Can't do it, Doc. Can't do it. 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 You know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
Dr. Parker, have you enjoyed yourself so far?
I have. I had a good time hanging out with you.
Good. I love you. You do a great job as always. I want to remind everyone that today is National Camera Day. It's National Camera Day. And in honor of the occasion, we're dedicating tonight's show to my former radio sidekick, Mr. Mallory Sonia. Last week, Uncle Mal was viciously attacked by three young men on the south side of Chicago. Uncle Mal survived the attack. He did have to go to the hospital for stitches. Uncle Mal, in the attack, ended up losing his precious camera, his laptop, and his cell phone. And as you guys know, those were three things that he loved and adored, and that he actually was able to function as being a photographer. For many of you, Uncle Mal has captured your pictures over the years. I'm grateful for him capturing me and all of my rise to fame. So if there's anything you guys can do to help Uncle Mal, he's asking for a certain amount, but I really would like to see us retire Uncle Mal so that he's able to walk into the sunset and not have to worry about his day-to-day living expenses. So if you guys could go to GoFundMe/Mallory Camera. Mallory Camera is the search word that you'll be looking for on GoFundMe. And if you go there, it's Malerie Camera. You'll be able to help him out, and we'll do what we need to do to make it all happen to help Uncle Mal during his time of need. All right? Isn't
Mhm.
that right? Is that what we're supposed to do, Dr. Wanda?
That's what we're supposed to do. Give and it shall be given. So
Yes. Somebody said, are you going to have Dr. Wanda on every Mental Monday? No, Dr. Wanda got clients, honey. She got to make money. She was able to help us tonight. How about that? They love you, Dr. Wanda.
I'll be back. I'll be back, right? That's
Oh,
up
I
to
know.
you.
Oh, yeah. Are you
But I
kidding
love
me?
the idea of doing Mental Health Monday because it gives space and time for us to talk about it, right? It's important to talk about it.
What's the stigma? Why we have such a stigma about mental health and not wanting to go see a doctor when we need therapy?
Well, I think we got it all wrong. We figure that when people go to therapy is something wrong, and it is, but that don't mean that it don't mean that you're weak. It don't mean that you insane. It means that you actually seeking help. When has seeking help been a bad thing? So we've kind of packaged it
Mhm.
in a way where people are ashamed to say that they're depressed or they're having a hard time with a breakup or they're having a hard time with parenting their kids or they have self-esteem issues then. And so we've made it okay for people to suffer in silence more so than seek the help that you need for therapy. So we've done it all wrong. So I am definitely on a campaign to change that then for people to seek the help that they need out in the open. You don't have to suffer in silence. Get the help that you need. Because how could somebody tell you, oh, well, you don't need therapy? Because sometimes people are like, oh, you don't need therapy. They say, you need Jesus, or you just need to go and repent or get delivered. And I'm not saying that you don't need those things. Maybe you do, but that don't mean that you don't need therapy then. And nobody would ever tell you if you had diabetes that don't go to the doctor. You don't need a doctor. So why would they tell you that when you're depressed or when you're anxious? So I think we just got to repackage it. We really need to be as committed to mental health as we are to physical health.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you 100%. Doctor, I don't know. For those of you all that are asking me, I put Uncle Mal's GoFundMe across the screen. It's at the bottom. There it is right there. GoFundMe Mallory Camera. Again, that's GoFundMe/Mallory Camera. If there's anything that you guys can do to help Uncle Mal out, please do so. I really would appreciate if you guys help to retire Uncle Mal. The amount of money that he's asking for to me is, I feel, very nominal. And Uncle Mal does need to walk off into the sunset. He works a job a couple of nights a week. He's been a great photographer, a great person. So whatever you guys can do to help Uncle Mal, please do so. GoFundMe Mallory Camera, and let's break that over the number of what he's asking for over on that page. God is in the blessing business right now, and we want to bless Uncle Mal. All right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In closing, Dr. Wanda Parker, what would you like to say, darling?
Well, I think the other piece that I would say is that we have to focus in on self-care. So we got to be able to balance out all that stress that we have to deal with, find some way to decompress then, in a healthy way, so don't drink your way down the river, but maybe it is having a glass of wine or taking in nature. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's listening to music and dancing. Maybe picking up a new habit. Okay, but don't go too far now with that. So yeah, find a way to decompress. So find a way to decompress then, find a way to really kind of give back and nurture yourself then, because you have to have that. Again, it's kind of like we said about our environment then. It should be a place of peace, where you also have to find internal peace with all this angst that's out there in the world, right? Everybody is at odds and in fighting, and they have this what we call dis-ease, right? Not disease, but dis-ease. And so you have to find a way to be able to get some peace and internal peace and ease. Then what is that? Reading, writing, taking on a new hobby, whatever it is, talking to a loved one, start writing a book, whatever it is that will give you some level of self-care so that you can make it out there when you open those doors, because it's difficult out there. It's a fight.
It is. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Well, doctor, tell everybody how they can find you, follow you, and all that great stuff.
So on Facebook, I'm Dr. Wanda Therapy and Consultant, and my website is Dr. Wanda Therapy and Consultant Services.com. Dr. Wanda Therapy and Consultant Services.com is my website. So hit like and follow me. I do a blog. Every so often you'll see a blog post, and you can find me on either one, Facebook or my website.
Very good. Well, I love you, my dear. I really do. It's been a beautiful rainy Monday evening here in the Chicagoland area. Hopefully it'll get some of that humidity out the air. Hopefully you guys will take some of the advice Dr. Parker has given you tonight and apply it to you and your family. We want everybody to stay healthy, whole, and complete. And when you're dealing with mental issues, it's not a lot of fun. Doctor, I was telling you earlier, over the course of the last 4 years, I've been dealing with some things that just have been absolutely traumatizing. But now more than ever, I feel as if I'm going through what is considered my breakthrough. And I am starting to feel so much better behind everything that has gone on. And I just know God is faithful, and that he will allow me to reign supreme in everything that I do.
That's right. And then you made those investments in your health and your well-being. And so now you're seeing the harvest of those things now, right?
Oh, I love it. Doctor, they want you to give your information one more time. They're a little slow. They've been drinking wine too.
Dr. Wanda Therapy and Consultant Services.com is my website, and Dr. Wanda Therapy and Consultant on Facebook.
All right. Well, we love you so much, Doctor. I appreciate you.
Yes,
For those of you all that have been texting me and sending me messages, the information is right there on the screen of how you can help Uncle Mal, Mr. Mallory Sonier, the gentleman who was my sidekick on the radio show faithfully every night for 5 years, was beaten by 3 young men last week in the city of Chicago on the South Side. He did sustain quite a wound to his head, but most importantly, through all of this, he lost his beloved camera, his laptop, and his cell phone, and a few other personal belongings. And Uncle Mal is a gentleman. Again, why I call him Uncle Mal is that he's been a gentleman that has always been like my older uncle, no relationship whatsoever, but we adapted a friendship that, will always go down in history as him being my radio uncle. And so I really would like for us to retire him if we could. So whatever you guys can give to Uncle Mal, that would be greatly appreciated. GoFundMe/Mallory Camera is how you can make the donation. And that is what it is. It really is. All right. On behalf of Dr. Wanda Parker, we thank you guys so much for being here with us on Mental
Yes.
Health Monday. Yay!
Absolutely. Thank you. All right.
About that mental health. It's all about that Cabbage Patch.
It's Cabbage Patch and mental health.
It's all
That's
about
right.
that Cabbage Patch. Hey, it's all about that Cabbage Patch. It is, baby. It is.
It is.
With that being said, continue to go to YouTube for encore performances of this show. All you have to do is put in the Real Chat Daddy Show on YouTube. It'll pop up. Please like the page, become a subscriber, share it. Also on Facebook, The Real Chat Daddy Show. All you have to do, hit that like button, hit that share, and let's get it moving. Don't forget, tomorrow night, we'll talk to people about the COVID effect. What effect COVID has had on them from the job perspective as well as the health perspective. And K. Renee Mason is back tomorrow night as our co-host. Tammy, thank you so much for the good night. Oh, we love you. I do. I
Good
really
night.
Good night. Good night. Dr. Wanda Parker, I love you, darling. Have a beautiful evening. Thank
Love
you
you
for being
too.
here with us tonight. And
Thank you
guess
for
what?
having me.
I feel like I'm having a kumbaya moment right now. I feel like my life is a little bit more
You
serene.
feel the peace? Is it coming down?
It may have been the Cabernet
Let it
Sauvignon.
rain.
It may have been the Cabernet Sauvignon, but that's okay. All right.
Now, see, you're going to take that away from me.
No, baby. I'm always pump you up. It was Dr. Wanda Parker. It had nothing to do with this evil juice. No, I love you, Doc. Have a great night. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.